Yo, what's good, guys? So I wanted to talk about something very interesting, and this has actually been in my mind for the past 2 days, right? Actually, thumbnail, hold on. Okay, so this quote or this saying has been stuck in my head for 2 days. Every single day, especially since I'm in sales, I think about this every single day because of how much I'm in sales. I'm negotiating all day. So this is what I found very, very interesting. It was a quote or saying that says, if you're not willing to walk away from a deal or a relationship or girl or business, or if you're not willing to walk away from whatever action you're about to do or fight for, then you're not in a position to negotiate. So if you're not willing to walk away from a deal, then you're not in a position to negotiate. So I thought about that for a second, and I'm still thinking about it now because it's like, whoa, what is that supposed to mean? And so many different scenarios started popping up in my head where I think what it's saying is that if you can't even walk away from a certain, I'll give you an example, like in my job. There's a point where when I was first starting and creating my book of business and I was starting to get my first few clients, I was not necessarily willing to walk away because I was excited to get my first few clients. And what happened was that I began to jump into these negotiation calls, or just calls pretty much, but technically I'm negotiating in that because they are willing to walk away and I wasn't necessarily willing to walk away, the dynamics shifted where now I was like trying to close that deal, even though I wasn't necessarily willing to walk away from it fully, right? And I don't know if I fully agree with that, because I think we all have a certain mindset maybe where we obviously do want a deal to incur, right? We certainly want a deal to happen, but I also think it has to do a lot with framing it as well, right? Yes, the deal will be really nice if it works out, but you must also know that maybe it's not going to work out. But either or, I'm sure you want the deal to close. You're going to have to set a frame where you're actually the one in power, where you're the one who's deciding if you're going to work with that carrier or that client or not, right? If you're willing to work with them, if they're willing to work, if you're willing to work with it, you're willing. You got to set the frame where do I want to work with you? It would be great because I would get some good business, but I don't know, maybe not, because it doesn't seem like you're very organized in your business, so it might not be good for my end, right? So you frame it that way. Obviously you want to have that business work out, but maybe it won't. And so I think the saying, if you're not willing to walk away, then you're not ready to negotiate, is kind of saying that if you truly cannot walk away, if you're in need of desperation, you're in a desperate mindset, then it's very hard to negotiate, because now the frame's gonna be that they're in power, they get to decide, and you're over here saying, come on, like you're now almost looks like you're begging to close a deal, which looks bad. But I do believe that you could potentially still be in that mindset, but if you set good frames, you can still turn the tides sometimes, right? But you need to have you need to organize that inner, that inner game that you have, that inner game where you're just like, listen, I really need this to happen in your head. I really need this to happen, but I can't show too much intent, because then they're gonna notice that, the client's gonna notice that, it's just gonna not look good. And yes, there's obviously, that's like, you can be technical and all that stuff where you can do that, you can really truly need the client, but you're starting this frame. The issue is that as time goes on, then that true desperation is gonna show, and then it's just gonna blow up later. So it's better to be more congruent now and say, hey, I'd love to have this client, but it might not work out, so I need to make sure I keep that frame. Instead of you're desperate and then you try to put these frames, which may work at the moment, but as time goes on, the client gets to know you, the girl gets to know you, your true colors show, then you're just like, well, you just played up a fake character, right? And I'll give you an example of how I use these frames. I'll give you an example of how I use these frames where I was in a very tough situation, right? I can't even say a couple of months anymore. This was in January of this year, where, you know, I was homeless, and I didn't have a place to stay. And the only thing that was keeping me alive, really, was the gym. I still had a gym membership, but my car for Uber. I was doing Uber, right? I was doing Uber full time, and yeah, I was making it by. But what happened, guys? This is what happened. My car actually stopped working. So imagine that. Imagine relying on Uber, your car, to make money, and then your car doesn't work anymore. I was screwed, pretty much. There's nothing I can do. I didn't know anyone out in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, no one. I knew no one. Thankfully, now I know a couple people that if I was in an absolutely I needed some place, I can reach out to someone, they can help me out. Thank God. But before that, I didn't know anyone out here. No one. So my car broke down, and I only had a little bit of money with me. And I was tripping out because I'm like, how am I gonna survive? I don't even have a place to stay, you know? And so I had to think of a plan. How the hell, I need money right now. There's no way that I can apply and do all this stuff and apply for jobs, but by the time I get that set up, dude, I'm gonna be freaking, I need money now. So what I did, I think I did a video on this before, I'm not sure. I actually went to Home Depot or Menards, bought a bucket, a window cleaner scrubber, I practiced in my car, practiced window cleaning, right? I practiced window cleaning for like 15 minutes. And I went straight to knocking doors. This was out in the Phoenix area. Where was this? By Glendale, I believe. This was by Glendale area. I went straight to knocking doors. Guys. And thankfully I had the experience with when I was in a solar company. I was working at the solar company and I was doing door to door. So I wasn't selling them 50K solar systems. I was selling them window cleaning. So it wasn't as hard of a sell. And so I got to work. I knocked about 50 doors, 100 doors, got a job, and I pitched myself. So yes, I was in a very desperate situation and I needed money, but I also made sure to frame it. It was very hard to do. It's very hard to do when your deep inner self knows that you're desperate. So it's very hard to do if you're not aligned with, you're fine with not getting a deal. It's hard to do because when you're desperate, it starts to show. You can be really good at frames though. Just sometimes the frames can be good enough, but there'll be little cracks where it shows you're desperate, right? So I had to make sure my frames were extremely solid because I was selling them. So I had to knock the door and be like, hey, listen, just passing by neighborhood, just clean windows. I was actually working down at James' house next door, but I saw they're pretty dusty, and I see you have 4 windows right here. I can knock them out for you. Usually I do this for $100, but just because it's a couple windows that can work on them, do it for $80. I do 75 because I actually live in the neighborhood. Make it seem like a deal, right? And then they'll take it, right? Or they don't. But I really, really had to make sure that I set the frame good, very tight frame, because I needed money like ASAP. And so thankfully, I got some wins, honestly, which is pretty amazing. You know, believe it or not, I think, and I posted this, I had this on my wall right now of a check that was written out to me for $250 for a 45-minute window cleaning job. And you know how long that takes to make an Uber? You know how long that takes to make an Uber? $245 to make an Uber takes a whole day. Takes a whole day. It takes about 10 hours to make that much money. And I made that money in an hour. 45 minutes to be exact. She wrote me a check for $245 for 1 hour of work. And I still remember to not show too much like, oh my God, are you serious? I was just like, got you. And made sure I took my time. I honestly could have finished the job in like 20, 30 minutes. I could have finished it in 30 minutes. But that's gonna look kind of like, all right, buddy. So I took my time, cleaned the windows real nice, and got that. And I remember that day I was eating at Chipotle and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to work for the rest of the day. I don't have to work for the rest of the day for like 2 days. So, and I still went knocking after Chipotle. I went knocking still. But that was freaking crazy to me, right? That I was able to do that. And so, because of that, it just blew my mind, honestly. And so I was able to manage to make money throughout the week doing door to door. Finally fixed my car. Thankfully, it was something that I could fix personally. I didn't have to take it to a mechanic. So it was a simple fix. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a simple fix and I fixed it. And thank God I fixed it. And then I went back to Uber, which then I realized, man, this is BS because I'm not making that much in Uber. So it was hard to sell, right? The whole point of this story was to tell you that if you can't walk away from a deal, it's very hard to negotiate, right? And I do agree with that, right? Because you're gonna have to have a certain level of, I don't know, self-respect or self-respect really, where you're saying, hey, listen, I'm willing to walk away if it doesn't work out. You have to respect yourself enough to do that. If you know it's not gonna work out, you have to have the respect for yourself and walk away. Because if you don't, and you don't even respect yourself, and you try to get into these deals or these negotiations or these relationships, and you're not fully having enough self-respect for yourself, it's gonna fuck you over pretty much, in short. Because the true colors are gonna show later if you still haven't developed yourself. And because those true colors show, then crap, you're kind of screwed, and then the whole frame's gonna flip. So you need to be very tight on these things. So I partly agree to that quote in some extent, but part of me is saying, listen, yes, you can get away with it if you have really good frames, but it's very hard to. You have to be very congruent with yourself in order to play these frames really well and in long term. So yeah, there's that. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys take value from this, right? Like I said, I'm uploading every single day to hit 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there. And so, yeah, guys, we are always making sure to improve, to develop our stuff, improve, so that way we get to that next level. Okay? So, I hope you guys enjoy this. Drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know what else you guys want to hear me talk about. Actually, these videos are actually coming out longer than I thought. But yeah, guys, we go from there. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Peace.